Once upon a time, in a small village nestled among rolling hills, there lived a boy named Oliver. Oliver was an orphan, left alone in the world at a tender age. He spent his days wandering the streets, searching for scraps of food and shelter in abandoned buildings. Despite his hardships, Oliver possessed a heart full of resilience and hope. One chilly autumn evening, as Oliver huddled beneath a threadbare blanket, he heard footsteps approaching. Expecting the usual shooing away from passers-by, he braced himself for rejection. However, to his surprise, the footsteps halted beside him, and a gentle voice spoke, "Are you all right, young one?" Looking up, Oliver saw a kind-faced woman standing before him, her eyes filled with compassion. She introduced herself as Mrs. Jenkins, a widow who lived on the outskirts of the village. Without hesitation, she offered Oliver a warm meal and a place to rest for the night. Grateful for her kindness, Oliver accepted her offer and followed her to her humble cottage. As they walked, Mrs. Jenkins shared stories of her late husband and their life together. Oliver found himself drawn to her warmth and generosity, feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time in years. Over the following days, Mrs. Jenkins took Oliver under her wing, providing him with food, clothing, and a sense of belonging. She introduced him to her neighbors, who welcomed him with open arms. With each passing day, Oliver's bond with Mrs. Jenkins deepened, and he began to see her as the mother he had always longed for. One day, Mrs. Jenkins surprised Oliver with exciting news. "Oliver, dear," she said with a smile, "I have decided to officially adopt you as my son. You will never be alone again." Overwhelmed with joy, Oliver embraced Mrs. Jenkins tightly, tears of gratitude streaming down his cheeks. With Mrs. Jenkins's love and guidance, Oliver flourished. He attended school, made friends, and discovered his passion for helping others. Together, they turned their humble cottage into a haven for those in need, extending the same kindness and compassion that had changed Oliver's life. Years passed, and Oliver grew into a kind-hearted young man, grateful for the family he had found. Though he would always carry the memory of his orphaned past, he knew that he was truly blessed to have ended up with such a good family, one built not on blood, but on love and acceptance. And in the embrace of Mrs. Jenkins and their community, Oliver found his home at last.